Hello, welcome back to the Docentric Advanced Functional Training series. In this video, we're going to check what else can we configure about the email message in addition to the settings available on the Docentric Email Print Destination. Docentric Email Print Destination contains the most commonly used settings such as to, CC, BCC, from, subject, attachment name, and additional attachments and email body. But there are a few other, less frequently used email message-related settings that we have put under the Docentric Report Setup, Email Sending Settings. Except for the email sending mode and delivery receipt fields, all other fields on this form are related to the so-called Internet header fields in the email message. We can see them on the receiving side if we open one received email message in Outlook, then go to File, Properties, and here are Internet headers. I can scroll a bit down and I will see fields like from, to, subject, and so on. This message, and most of the messages I have in my Outlook, have probably been created by Outlook as well, and they have rather complicated headers. But the email messages created by D365 F&O are less complex and simpler for the analysis. I have some messages stored in the batch email sending status form, so I will open one of them. We see the fields such as sender, receiver, from, to, date, subject. We won't usually see these header fields like reply to address or read receipt address because if we don't explicitly set them, they will have the default value and won't be set as separate Internet headers. What are their default values? They are based on the email message sender address. The three addresses on this form, reply to, bounce to, and read receipt address, are by default the same as the sender address, and email sender display name is a display name which is configured for the sender address. For employees, it is typically a combination of name and surname as you set it in your Outlook, or an administrator configures for you. This first field, email sending mode, has two possible values, synchronous or email processing mode. Synchronous mode is the default value. It means that as soon as an email message is prepared on a server, it will be sent out from D365 F&O. Another option, email processing, can be extremely useful if you want to send the emails in a controlled manner and have in one place an overview and history of the sent emails. When it is used, email message is prepared on a server and is added as a new entry to the batch email sending status table. You know this form, it is used to store the workflow notification emails so that you can review them. Email messages wait here in a queue to be processed by email distributor batch. Docentric has improved the features related to this form, and the improvements will be covered in a separate video about the email processing and email distributor batch. For now, we only explain the purpose of the email sending status form, and we will use this form to test the results of applying non-default email message header fields. What else do we have here? Email sender display name. Let's first see what it is on the example of one mail that was earlier already added to the batch email sending status. On the right side, there is a sender email address. In this case, it is accounting@docentric.com, and on the left side, we see the sender display name, some meaningful name. Sender display name is usually employee name and surname or a department description. If we leave this field blank, Docentric will use the default email sender display name as configured in the Docentric AX parameters, emailing, default email sender account, email sender display name. I have used here a token, current user email, which will be resolved as the email address of the user who initiated printing. And if we enter some text here, let's say Docentric Accounting Department, Docentric will equip the outgoing message with such sender display name. This setup applies to all companies, but it can be overwritten per company if we click this little pencil button. In this new form, we add the exceptions to the previous setting. For example, when printing from USPI company, we will have a different USPI sender. When we come back, we see that there are some company-specific settings for this field. As you can see, each of the settings on this form can be overwritten per company. Let's print one sales invoice and check the message that is stored in the batch email sending status. This is before the message passes through Exchange, so we see exactly what has been prepared by Docentric. As you can see, our configuration resulted in this sender display name. We can also see this in the message properties. Back to the email sending settings form. Next field here is reply to address. If left empty, it will have the default value, which is the email address of the sender. But if we want that when recipient hits reply, the reply message goes to another address, we will put that address here. I will write, for example, reply2@docentric.com. Notice that you can also use the Docentric placeholders in these fields. That's why you have this helper link to the placeholder list. Let's also populate the read received address field. If we leave it empty, the recipient won't be prompted to send the read receipt. If we enter some address here, then the recipient will get a dialog asking to send the read receipt, and if he confirms it, the read receipt will go to the address specified here. I will enter read receipt@docentric.com. And while I'm here, I will also set the email message priority to high. Default value is normal, and there is also the low priority. Let's print and see the result. We see the field disposition notification to having the value that we configured in the read receipt address. The reply to field has the value as configured in the reply to address. Importance is high, as configured in the email message priority. Delivery receipt can have the following values. It selects the condition for sending the delivery receipt, like never, always, on failure, and so on. The address to which the receipt will be sent depends on the email sender account settings. We can't see this setting in the message header, so there's no need to print and check the result. The only remaining field is bounce to address. If left empty and the message cannot be delivered, it will be bounced back to the sender address. That is a default behavior. If we want to redirect the bounced messages to some other email address, we will enter that address here. But this is a tricky operation, and you should be careful with it because, unfortunately, there isn't any separate email message header field for the bounce to address. It is simply always the same as the sender address. Therefore, to set a different bounce to address, we must force a different sender address. So please have in mind, if you set the bounce to address here, the message sender will be changed. I will enter bounce2@docentric.com, print the invoice, and check for the result in the batch email sending status form. We can see that the sender was set to the bounce to address. Outlook shows us that the message will be sent from the bounce to sender on behalf of the message author, which is the Docentric Accounting Department. There is one important thing to notice about the non-default message header fields. The way how I inspected them with the Open Email Before Sending flag or by downloading them from the batch email sending status form shows me the messages exactly as they have been prepared by D365 F&O and Docentric prior to sending them out. Unfortunately, When we send an email message out from D365 F&O, it must first pass through the outgoing email server, usually Microsoft Exchange. It tends to ignore the previously set email message header fields and to override them with its own default values. This means that you need to work close with your mail server administrator to let these special settings pass through the Exchange. We found that there is a higher probability of getting the unmodified header fields if the sender address represents a network alias as opposed to a real email account address. In this video, we reviewed some less frequently used email message fields and properties, we saw how we configure them in the Docentric report setup, and we demonstrated how to inspect the prepared messages before they leave D365 F&O.